Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner,
Whoa!
Lukas, and Gentry.
Time of day, boys.
It is Wednesday, June 12th. And, boys, we got a lot more to get into that we didn't get into yesterday. We had the defensive coaches speak. What up, Gentry? We got Gentry in the building. We Michael. Had the defensive coaches speak. Today, we're going to get to some of the offensive coaches. Chris Spielman also went on, I think it was NBC or I think it was NFL on NBC.
NFL on CBS. Or on BC. I don't know, one of the two.
Yes, I think you're right. CBS Sports. And shout out to Michael Lugias because he sent me the link there and I got to check it out. And we're going to break some of that down today as well. Boys, before we get into it all, how we doing today?
Solid day. Can't complain.
Hump day. Feels good. Got some energy here today.
Finals game 3, Luka. We need it. We need it, Booner.
Is out. On brand. Rare injury. Very on brand. Injury that really doesn't make sense.
Is he officially out?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know.
There we go. I love to hear that.
Yep. He's ruled out tonight. So the Mavericks, they should have this one. They should go out there and steal this one and steal the next one, tie up the series, heading back to Boston. I don't know. That Porzingis injury might be serious. From what at least I read, it's day to day. But
I did see it's like it could be like a legit, like really bad, like he's out for the rest of the playoffs, and like it depends on how he feels, but it's like a legit serious injury, which is crazy, just out of nowhere again. Yeah. This man doesn't know how to stay healthy.
That's what I've been hearing, that it was serious and whatnot. And then, like, I saw an update earlier that he might play, and then obviously now he's not playing. So I have no idea what's actually going up, if it's serious or not, or if he's going to try and play through it. But not having him out there and not having him 100% may cost them the series, because I don't know if Jaylen Brown can do it all by himself. Jason Tatum's been struggling, obviously shooting the ball. He's doing well passing and rebounding, but
they do that for game planning reasons. Like if I'm the Celtics and I know it's probably serious, I'm still going to say day to day, he could play. So the Mavs have to prepare for him to be there, and he's not, so I personally, my
smart.
I think it is smart. I think he's
smart gameplay.
Another game, unless he forces and plays a game, but he won't be healthy the rest of the season.
I think we're gonna see it with him out now, because he was, like, as much as I hate him, he was a little bit of a factor, like especially when having to guard him. I do think now Mavs win these next 2 games at home, and now we have a series. I do believe that a lot of people are going to count the Mavs out.
Do you think if they drop one, how bad do you think it's looking from after that? Like, say they split at home in Dallas and they go back to Boston.
It's over. If it's 3-1, it's over. The Celtics team's too good to go down 3-1 and come back. They have to win the next 2. I just think the Celtics team, as much like they're actually a legit, really good basketball team, as much as they've had an easy path, like they just have too many dudes. So if you're down 3-1, like if they lose tonight, series is over probably whenever the next game is. There's no way.
Why do you hate KP, Booner?
He's a loser.
Why?
I don't know, dude. He's like Joel Embiid. He's like Joel Embiid. He's a guy that loves
that draft pick.
I just hate, like, dude, you just talk and you like, it's just one of those guys that like was supposed to be good and talks like he's like all NBA player every year, and it's like the hype around him, it's like he's one of the best in the league since he's been drafted. And what has he done in this league? Nothing. He's done nothing. He's about to get a championship potentially for having one good game in the whole season. I know he's had a good season, but that's just me saying, like, he did nothing in the playoffs, and he literally had one good game, and he's about to get a ring for coattailing to the finals. Like, it's unbelievable. I hate him.
He's been really good though.
You would like Porzingis, Jeff.
I'm just acknowledging that he has been.
I get what Booner's saying. They've been there without him, and then they're basically here without him again. But he has been really good.
I would love, what's his name? Patrick Williams. It's Patrick Williams, correct?
On what?
What?
They used to be
on the Bulls.
No, not Patrick Williams.
Robert Williams?
No, who am I thinking of?
Robert Williams is on the Celtics.
No, not Robert
Williams.
No,
he's not anymore.
What's his name? That from Tennessee.
Grant Williams?
Grant Williams deserves the ring over Porzingis.
Oh my God.
He deserves the ring over Porzingis.
Yeah, he's with the
all these Williams.
Grant Williams, isn't he play for the Wizards?
That's what it was. Yeah, Wizards, I think, because there was a whole thing of he played for both teams that are now in the finals. So he's it is what it is. It doesn't matter. I mean, the pressure's on the Mavericks to win tonight.
I did put a bet on.
He has to play better. That is the biggest thing. He has struggled so far. Luka, he needs Kyrie. They got to get back to how they played against the Timberwolves to even make this thing to get this game tonight. I mean, he has to ball out, and he can't do it by himself. Luka Doncic, he just can't. So Celtics are too good. Too good.
Luka played great in that first half, but he started turning it over a lot in that second half and doing some dumb stuff. Obviously, he had like 30 points in the first half rather, but he needs to be a little smarter. And Kyrie does need to get it together.
I just put my bet in the chat. Go ahead and play. Luka Doncic double, Kyrie 23+ points. That is Luka Doncic 31+ points and PJ Washington 12+ points, and they get a win. It's +574. You don't have to
PJ Washington.
PJ Washington's been hooping. He's been hooping.
He
had like 17 last game, 15 I think the game before. He's been out there hooping. I think all three of those guys, PJ, Kyrie, and Luka, all tonight. Buckets.
There's always that one role player you watch throughout the NBA playoffs that you kind of just latch on to. You're like, that's my guy now. And that's been PJ Washington.
I loved PJ over in Charlotte too. He was a dog in Charlotte, just very quiet because they were so bad for a little while.
Yeah,
that still are.
Yeah, the Mavericks, they got to get Al Horford in the pick and roll, and they actually have to make shots because they didn't have them, and they still couldn't finish over Al Horford, and that was in game one. So,
all right, Coach
that's
Jay.
really how you beat the Celtics. I mean, everyone can defend. So it's like if you're going to pick on a player, it's probably going to be Al Horford, to be honest with you.
Big Al.
Love that, Coach Jay. Love that out of you, Coach Jay. That's a good – love that.
I mean, yeah, it's just the obvious. I mean, game one, they tried. They kept trying to get Al Horford in isolation, and he just – honestly, he was kind of holding his own, to be honest. And I think Al – what is Al, like 30-something? He's like 34,
like 35,
35.
36.
No, dude, he's like 30. He's like 38.
Is he? He's up there.
So shout out Michigan native. Went to Lansing. I think Lansing, Sexton potentially, or back in the day, or Lance. I don't know. Lansing,
38. Holy shit.
Real quick, Terrell from FL, my guy, says I watch you guys every morning at work, just not in the chat very much. Hope
Terrell
doing well.
Yeah, Terrell.
I remember Terrell used to call into the night show all the time.
Oh, me and him had some battles. He was in
the morning show. I know he used to call there too. Yeah,
he's a legend. Jacob says, "Thank God you're live. I don't have to watch the Tigers now." Jacob, we got you. We got you.
What's the update? Update score, Jacob. Let's hear it.
Coach Walk 37. What do you boys think of Joey Chestnut being banned from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest because he will now be eating impossible meat, like Anakin?
Catastrophe.
Oh, Jesus. Hey, that's an American hero.
Yeah.
That's an American sports icon. That's just a disrespectful move to the people of the United States, in my opinion.
It's a disaster.
I don't think it's something you can do.
I don't know if it's true, but I saw they're going to be doing it on Netflix now.
No, that was I saw that they're doing it's like a documentary of him and Kobayashi. I don't know, maybe if it's those two together. I thought it was a doc. I didn't know it was an actual.
No, I think they're facing
competition.
Off. They're running it back.
Is that
on the 4th?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I mean, that would be unbelievable. Kobayashi versus Joey Chestnut. That's that.
Who is Kobayashi?
That's what I'm talking about, dude. He was the greatest before him. No way. Kobayashi was the greatest. He was Joey Chestnut before Joey Chestnut.
Look at that graphic.
That thing would be so gross to watch. I can't watch when they do that. Like, it's funny to like watch after the fact, but when they're actually eating, bro, it's one of the most disgusting things I can ever watch.
It is
like
gross.
Eating a wet hot dog bun. You're dipping hot dog bun into water, bro. Get out of here.
All right, you guys are some divas here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I just have some respect.
It's an eating contest.
Dude, how many hot dogs could you do?
I don't know, but those are the worst takes from you three I've ever. I can't believe I heard that.
I like watching it, but it's gross. It is. Like soggy bun.
So it's an American thing, man. Go out there, eat some dogs, compete, take the over while you're at it.
That's not eating though, bro. That's like a whole different. That's like inhaling. They're at like
inhaling glizzies. It's just not.
Yeah, and they're just there's water all over the buns. It's like, could you imagine eating a soggy hot dog bun? Like 80 of them.
You're not the one eating it. You're watching.
Yeah, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. So I gotta imagine what that shit's like.
I'm just doing what you did yesterday.
I'm
not trying to argue. I'm not trying to argue. It's a take. It's just
a take, but shut it off. Don't watch it if you don't like it.
Oh, I don't want to argue.
I don't watch it.
That's what you did.
Booner, how many hot dogs are you eating?
Not a lot, dude. They eat way too much. Maybe like, I don't know, 10. Dude, the speed they go and what they do, and they stretch their stomachs out. I'm not doing any of that. That's tough. I tried to do the 50 nugget thing, and I was struggling.
How much pain do you think?
Can we make a video, Booner?
We could do some sort of video. I don't know about hot dogs. I'll probably just choke and die, to be honest. And I don't want to do that on live air.
You were just preaching that it's the American way and shit.
It is the American way. You watch it. Klotz, you guys, all three of you were just calling him an American hero, and then you're like, I don't even watch it. You can't.
I know. I admire somebody that goes out there and does their craft to an elite level for a long time. Doesn't mean I have to like watching what he does. No way. No way. You guys remember the hot dog contest? I'll be blowing off fireworks, eating some dogs, hanging outside. We all do it all.
We do it all.
You guys remember the people who would drink a gallon of milk and try and accomplish that? What was that?
The dude that drank the lemonade too. What's his name? Big ass dude.
He's on there he literally, the lemonade drinks go on right before the hot dog, so it's like he gets.
I can watch the lemonade drinks. I can watch that.
Jesus, I give him credit. I mean,
disaster.
I could never do that.
I can't believe he's not going to be there on the 4th of July. The fact that they're not doing this on the 4th of July and he's not going to do it is
well, boom. He's doing something else.
But I don't think it's on the 4th though. I heard.
Dude, I just showed it. It's on the 4th.
Is it actually on the 4th?
All right, Jeff.
We already went through this, Boone. Yes. Lock in, Boone. Lock in.
It's fair.
Oh no, actually, it isn't on the 4th.
September 2nd. Lock in, boys.
Hey, the first comment on the Twitter was we want it on the 4th of July.
It should be on the 4th. They should compete with the Nathan's hot dog. That is unbelievable. Shout out to Netflix.
That really is. Like, why wouldn't they do that?
That is crazy, dude.
Well, fellas, it's an awkward transition. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to get into some. Here we go. Terrell from FL. Thank you for the $5. Says Caleb Williams still sucks. Love it, Jeff. Do you guys have any locations narrowed down for the studio yet? No, not at this time. That is more in the future, Terrell.
If anyone has ideas.
Yeah, but hey, you know what, Terrell? You're consistent. I will give you that. Caleb Williams, he has been saying he sucks for a while, so I do applaud that. That's consistency, and I do applaud that. Steve Lehman, member for 4 months.
Shout
we appreciate Steve. Buy more merch. Get your merch. officialctsports.com. Merch is live, and we're continuously trying to. I ordered some samples of some different products just to test things out. I want to see how they look, but I want to add more to the shop. So, we're trying to. If you guys have anything you want to suggest, we might do like maybe a Q&A on social media or something on our YouTube community section, just asking what you guys want. But yeah, we're going to add more. So get your merch. But like I said, we're going to get into some of the comments that came out yesterday from the offensive staff, because we watched the players. We watched Colby talk to the media. Now we're gonna listen to a couple of different coaches. And Tanner Engstrand, he talked. Hank Fraley talked. Antoine Randall L talked. And you can go watch it. It's on Detroit Lions on their YouTube channel. And I posted actually something from Tanner Engstrand on my Twitter, which we're going to get into in a little bit here. But we're going to start with Hank Fraley because, fellas, that man is the best in the National Football. Or actually, second best. I got to give it to the offensive line coach in Philly. I mean, the guy.
I give it to Hank Fraley. Do you know his name?
Just because I don't know his name off the top of my head doesn't mean he's not great. Trust me. This guy is actually kind of like a legendary offensive line coach. But Hank Fraley's right up there. He's up there. He's in that sphere. I'm kind of mad I actually forgot the name. Now it kind of hurts my heart.
Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah, Stoutland U. That's what it's called.
Jason Kelsey talked about him all the time. Like he is like he loves him. He thinks he's one of the best coaches in the entire NFL, not just offensive line.
Yeah, that's who it was. But let's get to this. Let's hear Hank Fraley speak, and then we'll get to Tanner Engstrand in a little bit here. So we'll start with Hank Fraley. We're gonna break down kind of each comment because it is like a 10-minute interview. So we'll start and kind of go through. But before we get to it, I want to say before we get to Tanner Engstrand is a stud, is an absolute stud. Absolute stud. And he is watching him speak further solidifies the thought of him being the eventual OC for the Detroit Lions. And that's always the big question mark, is what happens after Ben Johnson. Well, when you're a good coach or you're a good organization, you are consistently grooming coaches to take over for other roles. And that's what I think Tanner Engstrand is doing. But hopefully you don't have to groom anyone to take over for Hank Fraley. So let's listen to Hank Fraley, what he had to say when he spoke to the media today. So we'll pull this up. Let me get rid of this lower third here so we can see Gentry's being blocked off. All right. Let's listen to the legend, the man, the myth. Let me drop the volume so the people can hear it. All right. Because I know you can't hear the reporters anyway, but let's tune in.
It's always a good thing, when it comes to the O-line. This is the time of the year that we were able to, get all out here and run around a little bit. Some guys were out more than others, this year, but it was good. Just being in the room together was awesome for us, and it's always great time to be around here. And coaching staff too, it's always good to be around each other. I mean, it's a daily grind, but have fun at it. And when I use that grind, this time of year, it's how can we get better as a coaching staff? And then we have a lot of fun. It's fun coming to work every day, seeing each other. So, but we do need this break from each other. I need my break from Coach Johnson. So it's coming up.
What's Kevin bring to the room and to the line? I know it's hard. Yeah.
You mean Zeitler?
Yeah.
Kevin Zeitler?
Yeah.
No, I call him. No, I call him Kevin and Zeitler. So I go back and forth. Kevin caught me off guard. I'm like, who's Kevin? He's got a lot of experience. Going on 13 years is a lot. And even guys are always learning from each other. He's learning from us. He's doing new things, a little bit of new technique. Maybe he hasn't been asked in a while to do. Offensively, we do a lot here. We're a lot of variety. And it's been fun for him. Some of it can be challenging for him, which is good to keep you engaged. And so it's been good for the room. And these guys get along, they gel. And he's been professional, and I think that's what guys get to see. There's reasons that guys have been in the league. You got Decker, you got Graham going on 9 years, and he's going on 13. I mean, Frank's going on 7, and there's reasons why people make it in the league, and they get to see their daily routine, not just how good of an athlete they are and stuff like that, but it's the daily routine for those guys.
Zeitler's been at a high level for a long time. He wasn't out here a ton, in terms of doing stuff to see. Comes as he meets some of that, for that matter, Frank and Taylor too, just that continuity. So. Yeah,
we'll really get it when training camp comes. Up front, when the pads go on. We like to joke around. This is like being in underwear for us up front. D-line and O-line, it's tough. So. That's where we're going to get it. But the communication and how people see things, and when they were out here working together, how things are done, for somebody like Zeitler coming here, I might be just a little bit different than what he was doing it in Baltimore, or I say it a little bit different. It means the exact same thing. So that communication part was big for him being around. And then for everybody to hear it, the new guys that we brought in, but for the most part, we, besides the rookies, it was only Kevin. So it's been a good thing. It's just, how the language we use, and that's the thing, how we identify things, and that's what he needed this year.
You've got a relative.
All right, let's stop it there, because he basically talked a lot about Zeitler to begin there, and the offensive line. He also went into how these guys have to kind of continuously prove that the starters are the starters, because I think some of the reporters kept mentioning like, oh, well, you have your 5 already kind of figured out. And he's like, well, these guys, you at least, you want to solidify that. Like, these guys have to go out and prove that, obviously. And he also mentioned a little bit about Colby Sorsdahl and how his versatility can help him come game day when you suit up a certain amount of offensive linemen. And when a guy can play multiple positions, it's only going to help his case. But we'll start with what he said about Zeitler. And we only talked about Zeitler a little bit, but he mentioned there that there's things that they're doing here in Detroit offensively that he's probably not used to. I mean, Kevin Zeitler's been in the league for over a decade. Yeah. And that just tells you, it gives you a little hint to how complex this Lions offense is. I mean, it truly does.
Mm-hmm. It's Ben Johnson. Like he's probably coming in, and there's this new style of offense with Ben Johnson runs, and you have all of the weapons that you have. You're constantly just schemes are getting changed, things are getting moved around, and completely different probably than what he was doing before anywhere. I don't know. I don't think Zeitler, I don't know where you guys are at with this. I feel like he's just a guy to where no matter what scheme you're running, whatever it is, any type of offense, any playbook, whatever it is, whether he hasn't done it yet or he hasn't done it in a long time in his career, he's been in the league, like he said, for 13 years. Like he's going to adapt, and he's been a Pro Bowler in this league multiple times. Like he's gonna be able to adjust and just fit right in and be like, all right, let's go, boys. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a change because you're going from, one organization to another and one offensive coordinator to another, and you're working with a different quarterback. Like Zeitler's going to be just fine, though. I don't think anything at all. There's a question to where if he's doing new things, I think it's all right. OTAs are done. Minicamp's done. Now in training camp, I'm sure Zeitler's going to come in, know the whole playbook, know what he had to work on, and he's ready to roll. Like for a Super Bowl run. Like he's a pro's pro probably.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think Zeitler will be fine. I think we were kind of worried when Jonah actually first got signed, like how are we going to replace him or how are we going to one-up him? And I think obviously Kevin Zeitler might even be a better fit, and he comes from Baltimore, who was a run-heavy team. And just like the Lions, even though we do have great wide receiver options, they are built for their offensive line in the run game. So I think he'll be able to fit in. Obviously, he's a veteran. He's been around different situations before. It may take some time, but he'll get there.
Yeah, no, Kevin Zeitler, I view a lot like DJ Reader. When he was with Houston, he was good. When he was with Cincinnati, he was good. Now he's coming to Detroit, talking about DJ Reader, and he's going to be good. Kevin Zeitler, New York, he was good. Cleveland, he was good. Baltimore, he was really good. The same thing's going to happen in Detroit. I think, especially in the run game, he's going to be better than Jonah Jackson. We're going to see Kevin Zeitler as a veteran, pancaking defensive end and linebackers. And, you have Penei Sewell or Taylor Decker right next to him. So Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they're definitely going to appreciate Kevin Zeitler being there. And I think he is an upgrade over Jonah Jackson. And it makes this Lions offensive line, somehow it managed to get better this offseason.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, Zeitler, I mean, Jonah struggled last year in pass pro. I think Kevin Zeitler, immediately he's an upgrade there. And he was good in the run game, but I think Zeitler, like you said, he's also just an absolute dog. So that offensive line, man, I mean, I don't know how much better they can get. They just got dudes everywhere. I mean, they do. And what they want to do, I mean, you look back and Jared Goff, I believe last year had the most passing yards in play action. So you know what they want to do. They want to run the football and establish play action, and they have the best offensive line in the league to be able to do so. So it's great.
Yeah. One of the more interesting things that I think that comes out of this whole, I don't know how far we're going to go into the Hank Fraley stuff, but this the most interesting part to me is like the Colby Sorsdale thing, to where like they're talking about how we already have our 5, but those 5 know that there's no matter what, there's always going to be pressure behind you. And Colby Sorsdale being a guy to where they're looking at is like a 6 man off the bench essentially when it comes to this, and that he is kind of taking a step forward and he keeps getting better and better and better. Like that, I think is the more interesting thing, that like, because like the Zeitler, like we know it, like that's an upgrade. We know that, and we know that Zeitler's going to be a pro and come in and he's going to be elite instantly. Like we already know that. Like it feels like the offensive line got upgraded. The biggest thing on our offensive line is an injury. There will be an injury at some point this season. A guy's going to have to sit a game out. Who's going to be the replacement? Are you going to run into a situation like last year in the NFC Championship game? Like Yodi held his own, yes. Or like even Atlanta. Do you guys remember Atlanta? And Hank actually said this. He was like, in Atlanta, you lose a tackle, you only get 8 guys and 8 offensive linemen that can suit up. And Colby Sorsdale never I don't think any of us really knew this. He has never played tackle. He never took a rep at practice all year long at tackle. And he had to just out of nowhere in Atlanta, someone goes down and he goes, all right, we need you. Like, we need you to step in. And he says all year long he didn't practice that tackle, and he steps in and he does it. And like when Hank said that, I was like, okay. I was like, yep, like this is like he's able to do that. So he's like he's got that mindset. And now he said like that he's been able to have the offseason to get better. He knows what he has to work on. He knows that you have to be a Swiss Army knife to get on the field if you're not one of the first 5. And like it feels like he's going to take a big step forward, which is big. Like you need that 6 man since you don't have Graham this year, essentially.
I mean, and by the way, I want to make this very clear just to get the expectations at a correct level. Offensive line depth is one of the hardest things to have in the NFL. Yeah. So, it's okay if there is an injury and you have the best offensive line, number 1. So anyone that comes in, it's immediately a downgrade by a lot. But on top of that, it's also just hard to have depth on the offensive line. So, it's not the Lions you just don't want to mess it up. Like if Colby just don't mess it up, if he could
just be solid.
Just be solid. Hey, make some mistakes. It's going to happen, but hey, you want him ready. Like you said, just be solid. But also Hank Fraley talked about Gio Manu.
He did.
We have to play this clip. So let's play it and we'll hear what he had to say.
Do the speaking, and that's what we're excited for.
Which was Manu swimming a little bit when we first got here with that jump, and what kind of progression did you see him making in the spring?
You know what? I've been very pleased with him. He's learning a lot. There's a lot of just things that, we're changing on him that, you're used to doing it for 4-6 years where, 4 years here, up there in college and in high school and all that. So there's some things we're asking him, but he's coachable and he wants to learn. And that's the good thing. He's open-minded, and there's a lot of stuff I'm very pleased with. And, he's going to come along. It's going to be exciting to see him grow, and he wants to be good, and he is a hard worker, and he's got a lot of talent. It's just now it's like, how quickly can he just go out there and function without thinking? And I think that's what all of us athletes need to do, is once you stop the thinking, just let your athleticism take over. The game slows down for you. And I've seen in the last, however many weeks we've been doing this, stuff start to slow down for him, and he can just start using his ability to go out there and play.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about his work ethic. And if you read, Pride of Detroit came out with an article, and I was reading some of what John wrote too. And everyone in Detroit here, local media, all talked about it. Manu kind of struggling a little bit with just the cadence. That's something that he was struggling with today. And I guess that is a big thing when you're getting adjusted to the NFL, is especially in this offense, learning quarterback cadences. And he had a couple like false starts. And I'll probably ask John about that more in depth later. Yeah, he'll be joining us in about 15 plus minutes. So he's not too far away. We'll get to it. But like I say, and like Hank Fraley just said, and if you don't trust me, trust what he said, the work ethic, he wants to be good. It's just going to take time for him. He is kind of in that Broderick of last year tier, and maybe Colby tier, where in terms of competition level, it's a little similar, maybe a little worse, but it's going to take some time for him. I think technique and learning just the NFL, that's going to take a year or two. So, I mean, you're not going to see him for probably a year or two, to be honest with you. I think it'll be like Broderick next offseason. You'll probably hear more things about how he's improving, but this is definitely a redshirt year for him.
You might even,
unless the whole offensive line goes down. And
I wouldn't even be shocked if there's 2 redshirt, like a second year, where it's just like, just keep developing, just keep going. I'm not shocked at all. I really don't. And Jeff, I know Manu's your guy, and don't take this in like I hope you don't take this in a disrespectful way. I'm not really going to even think about Giovanni Manu for the next 12 months. Like, it's not even like, I think now that we heard him, Hank Fraley say, like, his mindset's right. He's got the work ethic. He's got everything it takes. Now it's time to put it on there. It's literally, for me, it's like a redshirt year as like a fan and an analyst. It's like, all right, talk to me about him in 12 months. Let's see how much he improves the next 12 months. Go in there and work for the next 12 months. Like, he's super raw because he's played at a smaller level. So he's raw. He has the size. He has everything you need to do it. Now go in there, go develop for the next 12 months. Learn behind guys like Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, and Hank Fraley. Go learn behind these guys. Get great at what you can do. And when your time comes, come in and dominate. And that's all I'm worried about with him. I'm not even worried about anything else. Now that we heard what he's about, now I'm good. I'm locked in on that. I trust these fellas. I trust Hank.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you really want from him is, a young guy like him to be coachable and want to learn. Obviously, he's still raw. You don't really expect to see him for the next couple of years. And it's just why you have these studs, these great offensive linemen on your team. Just take as much as you can away from them and keep working with Hank Fraley. And we'll see you in a couple of years. Other than that, like, just keep developing.
Yeah, I think we talked about it with Broderick, like how he's still going to have to go through that first eye-opening experience of playing real NFL reps. And I think training camp for Manu, even with the Detroit Lions, is going to be an eye-opening experience, and then joint practices and preseason games. So I think there's a lot of levels for Giovanni Manu to really even get into that rotation. But I think there is a lot of intangibles to like there. But to Booner's point, you could say 12 months. You could even go 24 months or 2 years at that point. Giovanni Manu's a project, but at the end of the day, offensive line, I think it's something that once, like Hank Fraley says, once it slows down, he's just such a big athlete and so strong that I think he can make a big impact on the offensive line. It's just a matter of time and if he's able to do it consistently.
I think there's a real chance that if there is an injury, that they would be more comfortable with Connor Galvin than Gio Manu. And if you're thinking who's Connor Galvin, yeah, I mean he's he's out. I'm sure he's been fine, but I think he would even be higher on the depth chart than Gio. Because
I even think I wouldn't even be shocked if Gio doesn't even end up like suiting
or
up for
Colby
any
or
games
Colby,
this year.
but Colby then kind of
But it's like with Gio, don't be shocked if he doesn't even suit up at all this year. Like if he just I think Hank said you get 8 offensive linemen to suit up every game. That's the max. That's how many you get. I wouldn't see Gio being a part of that. Like I don't like Skip, Colby, and then a third guy potentially, like whoever that may be. So that I don't.
I'm with you.
There's a lot of time on that. I like that though. That's a good thing for our team, man. That's a good thing that organization's gotten to that point.
Tanner, I know you mentioned Gio Manu, and he is my guy. I'm intrigued ever since the 350 no gut thing. When he first got drafted, I am a fan. But there is also a coach who I do have a man crush on, and this isn't just based off this. This is based off. This is based off when Ben he is the OC, but when he first got the OC job and you started, the interesting thing to do, I'll just give you guys something that I do personally. Whenever there's an OC, I don't know why I have this weird obsession with OCs. I don't know why. But whenever there's an OC, I try to look at who's on the staff for future reference. It's just something like I'll look at. And I did this with before Ben. And then Ben was on the staff. So I was like, well, I'll keep doing it. Like, because obviously this organization, it seems they value grooming coaches from within the organization. So I always look to see like, okay, what's this guy's, who's the passing game coordinator? Who's this? Who's that? And Tanner Engstrand, I first saw he was on the staff. And then you start seeing reports that he was following Ben Johnson around. And I'm thinking, okay, what's this guy's resume? And I look into his history a little bit, and he is, he's got an extensive background just in offense in general, but now he getting the promotion he got, which is essentially what Ben Johnson was before he became OC, intrigued me even more because good organizations plan for the future. And you got to look at these little hints like passing game coordinator. That's something Ben Johnson was while Dan Campbell was calling plays. Now Tanner Engstrand is the passing game coordinator. So and he was also interviewed to be an OC for what?
Multiple places, I think. I believe 2 or 3.
Let's listen to him speak to the media, and then we'll
real quick too, Jeff, because I want to give you your flowers with this. You said years ago, watch out for Tanner, and we had the conversation about, I think it was a year and a half ago. Me and you were watching, I think, one of his press conferences as the tight ends coach last training camp, I believe. And one of the questions was like, hey, like he still needs to mature a little bit in interviews. He needs to get better, like following around Ben Johnson, learning from a guy like Ben Johnson, not even just Ben Johnson, Scotty Montgomery, like Dan Campbell, like you have an assortment of guys he's able to learn from offensively. And if I went back, I remember when we had this conversation, I went back and watched Ben Johnson's interviews from 2 or 3 years ago when he was the tight ends coach originally. And he kind of his very first year here in Detroit or whenever that was. And then I watched him now and I'm like, okay, you can see a massive jump as just like the aura and the confidence as a coach and becoming into an OC. And then if you go watch Tanner from a year or two ago to now, and you guys will see this video here. That's why I wanted to say this before. You can tell that he's been around Ben Johnson and Scotty Montgomery and Dan Campbell, the way he approaches everything and just the way his outlook on everything. Like, I truly do believe if Ben Johnson didn't end up staying here, I think Tanner would have gotten that job here as the OC. And I think like you saw that he interviewed with other teams around the NFL, and now he has an idea of, okay, now I know where I'm at and now I know what I need to do. And he's kind of that next guy. Like, shout out to Jeff for even having that thought a couple years ago to do that. But like, you can just, if you break it all down and see his development as a coach, like coaches develop, it's very well known that this is going to be the future OC for the Detroit Lions. Like it's spot on.
Well, when me and Adam were when we were on air too, at one point we had the discussion, and I think that it was at the time that Anthony Lynn was hired, and it was a terrible decision and didn't work out. We understand that. Dan Campbell moved on from him pretty quickly, but then Dan Campbell took over the play calling, and then the offense, they were fine, they were all right. They were way better than Anthony Lynn. So that was what we took away. But we had that conversation: who's the next OC? Who's the next OC? And I remember me and Adam would have these discussions. And there's nothing being reported, by the way. I don't want to hear that. And now it's hindsight 2020. But at the time, we had this debate, not really a debate, but the discussion, because we weren't arguing about it. But it was, should they outsource? Should they go outside the organization and get an OC, right? There was, remember, and I don't want to rat this person out, but he's a good friend of ours. Matt Nagy was an option at the time. You know, there was all these guys. Deuce Staley was an option. People bringing up Deuce Staley. And then you saw Ben Johnson, who was the pass game coordinator. And when you look up the stats that year and how Jared Goff finished the season, he played way better than he did most of the season.
Yeah.
So you're putting the 2 and 2 together, and Jared played better once Dan called plays, but also Ben took over as the passing game coordinator. And the big thing me and Adam talked about was, well, good organizations, and this is the point I brought up, good organizations always groom from within. The 49ers do it. The Rams do it. All these organizations, the Chiefs, groom different coaches that went outside, and obviously, you know, Andy Reid is the play caller, but still, they had good coaches. That's what good organizations do. And the Lions, we didn't know at the time, but I'm like, that seems like Dan Campbell's philosophy. Like, he's going to give one of these guys a chance. And we all decided that Ben was probably the next one up, and that's the take I had at the time. And he ended up going and being the OC. So now it's like, okay, now you understand how the Lions think. Like, they value, which is a great thing, they value guys from within the organization. Like, that's for any workplace that promotes from within, and you're there as an employee, and you see like, oh, I could one day get to this point. That's got to be great. That's a great thing.
It's the same thing as the players. It's the same thing as the players. Like, you're
absolutely rather than some in some places, go outside and get guys, you know, oh, we need a new GM. There's someone that's been my right-hand man here for a decade, but we're going to get Joe Schmo that's ran another company. It's like the Lions do it differently. And I actually appreciate Dan for that. So let's hear Tanner speak, and then we'll share our thoughts more on it. But here's Tanner Engstrand talking about just, you know, learning in the NFL and becoming even a better passing coordinator, maybe eventually, you know, see. But let's hear what he had to say.
The opportunity to work in a bigger role and work with Ben. What did that mean for you? How did you feel as you developed as a young coach?
Yeah, I think it was a valuable experience. You know, you come to work and you learn every day from those guys. I mean, Ben is a wealth of knowledge, as well as Dan. You know, so you come to work and you think you're working, you're doing the right thing, and you are, and you learn something new every day. You know, and just whether it's helping, you know, put the game plan together, or just something else that we want to look at, or you know, just depended on the week for what direction that we wanted to go. You know, I had a lot of things that I was doing on a weekly basis that were pretty standard and all that, but you know, every week there'd be something else, something new that came up that you just take it and you run with it and you learn from it. So for me, it was a really good learning experience as well.
Another sign.
Hey, that guy right there.
Experience.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and, you know, he's the next Ben Johnson. Obviously, that's hard to do. All right. I want to make that very clear. It's hard to do that. All right. But I think they have a capable OC in house, boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think Dan Campbell would just spend all this time trying to groom a guy under Ben Johnson if it wasn't worth the time. So I think the fact that they have put this much energy into developing him as a potential play caller, giving him the same route as Ben Johnson, it's not just for random reason, to your point, Jeff. I think it does align with what you're saying, where if there's going to be another guy to step up, we talked about it before. I asked you guys, like, do you think it'd be Antoine Randall? It's like, there's no real like logic there compared to like the only clear path right now points to Tanner Engstrand.
And he kind of reminds me of Ben Johnson already. And I do hope that we can keep Ben as long as we possibly can. But then we fall into the danger of possibly losing Tanner because of him already taking 2 OC interviews this past year. So, I mean, it's great to have a guy like that, and hopefully we can keep him. But it's kind of like a lose-lose. You lose Ben Johnson, or you may lose Tanner, or you may lose both. So hopefully
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, no.
New England takes them. You're sweating bullets when you're reading those reports this offseason. I know you were.
Yeah,
I was. And I saw some comments too, and I want to address before John comes on. That I saw a couple people saying, you know what? Well, if Ben leaves and becomes a head coach, he'll take Tanner to be his OC. It's like you have to look at it from Tanner's perspective. Okay, if I'm Tanner, and I have a couple things. One, this situation, this offense, this quarterback, this offensive line, these running backs, these weapons, and it's a system and it's a place that I've been here for a while. He probably has a family here as well. And I get to be the OC, be the play caller because Dan Campbell empowers his coaches. That's a better thing to put on a resume, in my opinion, than going to wherever Ben goes, because typically a team that fires their head coach isn't really a great roster. And Ben's going to be calling plays wherever he goes. So if I'm Tanner, why would I go with Ben to a worse roster and not even call plays? If I'm trying to further my career as a play caller, why not just take over for Ben, call plays, because Dan would just let him call plays and get a job that way. You know what I mean? It didn't really make sense when I saw it. That's my take on it.
There was reports as well when Ben was essentially going to, at the time before he made the decision to not go to Washington, there were reports that Hank Fraley was going to be the OC. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but Hank Fraley's name was out there as a potential candidate for OC for wherever Ben Johnson went. And that was essentially because, one, you trust Hank Fraley, like that's a guy that Ben's worked with. And I don't know, like Hank talked about Ben today and was like joking around. Like they obviously have a really close relationship. He was joking around and was like, "Yeah, I need a couple weeks off with Ben. Like I just need a couple weeks off." Like they obviously are very close, but Ben's going to call plays wherever he goes. He's going to be controlling that offense. He said it in his last press conference that wherever he went, when they kept asking him about him leaving, and no one was asking him really football questions besides a couple people, he kept saying, wherever I go, I want to call plays. I want to have control over the full offense. For Tanner, there's no, and essentially too, if you're trying to grow your career, to your point, Jeff, like if you want to take the path of Ben Johnson and become a head coach, you're not going to become a head coach. It's going to be a harder path for you to become a head coach, leaving and going with Ben Johnson. Stay here. If you want to be a head coach one day, call plays. You have one of the best rosters in the NFL. And I think that's essentially like he did this coordinator process a couple months ago. He got an idea of the questions that are going to be asked. He knows what position he needs to be in. And I'm sure when it comes down to it and Ben leaves, I bet you Dan is going to have him still interview for it. And he's going to have to go through that process just like most other guys. So he's getting the experience every single year, and he's taking the steps that any other OC would do to kind of get to that position. So I do think I think you're right with this, Jeff. I think Tanner takes over. The only other guy I think that would end up potentially going for that job would be Scotty Montgomery, but I'm on the side of where Scotty Montgomery, similar to like an AG type of thing. I think Scotty could be a head coach in the NFL. Like I think instantly, like you could argue that Scotty Montgomery's ready to go be a head coach somewhere, just based on what he can do and like the energy he brings and how he can connect with players and stuff. So I see more likely Scotty Montgomery going to get a head coaching position, as crazy as that sounds, than becoming the OC here, because I think Tanner, like you wanted a guy with an offensive mind when it comes to like today's world of the NFL, when it's like pass first, like and he's the whole passing game coordinator. I don't know if we're going to listen to more of this, but he literally he talked about DPJ, fellas. And there was just a play to where he remembered, it was just a random play in Chicago to where he recited the exact play call and he exactly what DPJ did, the down and distance. And it was just like, dude, that's a play from like week 7. And he just rattled that off in the middle of mini camp when someone asked him a question about DPJ. So like Tanner is absolutely dialed in. Like this is a guy you want in your building calling plays. Like I trust him to take over for Ben Johnson. I'd be very comfortable. Obviously, there's going to be what's the word I'm looking for? There's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road because Ben Johnson's leaving, but eventually things will settle down, and when that does happen, it'll be fine.
Well, that's the big thing there. I mean, I personally, I don't know, Lucas and what you guys think with the Scotty Montgomerys of the world and everyone else. you know what works. Tanner Engstrand's running the pass. He's at least designing concepts in the passing game that I don't know. Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know the players have to execute, but these guys they're thriving in the passing game. Like, I mean, I think it'd be malfeasance to just be like, well, all right, Scotty Montgomery, go call plays, especially if Tanner's there. Unless Ben takes Tanner with him, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, yeah, especially when you look at guys like Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay and even Kyle Shanahan to a certain point where that's where they really got their start in the NFL was as passing game coordinators. That's Kevin O'Connell. You guys heard me rave about it all last year, especially with the fact that he got Justin Jefferson. He was the one when Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown. He was the one designing all the route concepts, and people were like, wow, if he's able to get a Triple Crown winner, they went and won the Super Bowl, and they were still able to get OBJ the ball. And if you looked at their backfield, it wasn't anything crazy, so they had to rely on that passing game a lot, and dudes were just wide open. And I think you see that with this Lions offense. And I think Ben Johnson, because he is so young, I think it is easier for Tanner to learn from him because I think it's just a lot closer in age, so they can see like where the game's heading because they've been around the game similar times. It's not like you got trying to think of like an old OC, but you get what I'm saying. Like if it was an older offensive coordinator, there's a lot more to take away from it. There could be more concepts there, but with Ben Johnson, it's pretty straightforward just because he is also so fresh.
I'm a fan of younger guys as my offensive coordinator. And this is the thing that we're going to get into later. Chris Spielman talked about this, and he had some great quotes. And his
what a good video too, dude.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about he talked about Dan Campbell, but the one thing he did mention about Dan Campbell is he's comfortable within his own skin to where he'll hire great coaches, not worrying about competition for him. Like, remember the whole Ben Johnson, fire Dan and hire Ben. Like that thing was an actual thing. And that's what I do applaud Dan for is he's completely comfortable just being like, I want the best, most stacked coaching staff because I don't care if these guys are people, these rumors about they could be better coaches than Dan because Dan's comfortable in his own skin. So like some coaches, to your point, Lucas, they'll get like these, these old outdated OCs that don't really understand today's NFL and it just doesn't work. But now you have a lot of coaches nowadays that are play callers, head coaches, and Dan Campbell's technically not really that. He's a leader of men, which works with Ben.
The new OCs feel like it's like a new style of football, essentially, like the Sean McVays and all of them, to where the offense is a completely the game has changed and it's evolved. It's like an evolved offense to where, you could like get a running backs coach like the Scotty Montgomery or go get an old time coach to be an OC. But like to like Tanner's point, like when you listen to Tanner again to talk yesterday, the concepts that he's talking about and saying how like they need to go out there and find more big plays when it comes to, on the offensive side of the ball instead of just, not only just pound and ground, but to go in there and like, we need to get big plays and like, we need to find ways to do that every game to win games. That's like the new era of football, in my opinion, when it comes to all the Matt LaFleur's, Sean McVay's, Kevin O'Connell's, Ben Johnson's, like that's what it is. And like, if you were going to make that change next year, Tanner seems like he's being set up to where he is sitting in his office all day and then walking on the field, and all he's doing in his office is figuring out just new ways to draw plays up to, in this new era. And like, let's go on the field and let's implement it. And like, that's all he's doing. Like, that's what it feels like. And that's like exactly what you want from your OC.
I mean, this dad with Tourette's, he says, let's not act like that was dumb though, Jeff. If the offense continued to be elite, but we won 8 games instead of making the NFC Championship game, why wouldn't you want to keep Ben over Dan? No, if they won 8 games, hold on now. That's a different. Now we're getting into, first season disaster, second season 1-6 start, 8-2 finish, and then you go out and win 8 games again. Like now we're in a different conversation. And so
Gentry just said it. You didn't though. Like the conversation never should come up.
If that was the case, that would be people would be talking about that.
It's like we're just hypotheticals that will never happen. Because they never happened.
Because at the time, Ben, the whole conversation was had. I think they were 1-6, and the offense was really good. So people are, bringing up but again, it's all in the past. The Lions are good, and Dan Campbell's a good head coach. So, quite frankly, right now, it just doesn't really matter. I see some of these. Tyler, I don't think AG is a bad DC. He just had a trash secondary off the jump, and he sees defenses through the lens of a DB.
I agree.
We'll find out.
Brandon's dog says Aaron Glenn will be a great head coach. He convinced Dan not to fire him. I don't know. I don't know if he convinced Dan. He's not like pleading Dan not to fire him. Please, Dan, don't fire him.
He was, dude. I bet Aaron Glenn, his game prep was probably insane. Like trying to find a way to scheme Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, and Kendall Vildor to stop Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey out of the back. Like you would look at it, and just be like, how am I? It'd be like going to play Ohio State and you're rolling out there with the Tiffin Dragons. Like it just does not. It doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. There's levels to it. And he was set up to fail this year. Every year, honestly, Aaron Glenn has not had a year where he was set up for success. This is the first year where I think you can look at Aaron Glenn, you look at that defense, and you're like, all right, I think we might have something cooking this year. We got some real talent at all three levels. There's still some weaknesses, but it's not to the point where I think you can absolve Aaron Glenn from blame if this defense doesn't step up. There's no excuses this year.
Make or break year.
100%.
Step up or not. You're going to find out who Aaron Glenn is in the next 12 months. You're going to know if he's a great DC or not.
ETN says, I'd fancy the Dragons' chances against Ohio State.
I would put the house on Ohio State minus 40.5.
Probably more than that, though.
I'm taking the Dragons.
They're blowing out Max schools by 50.
I'd put the mortgages. I would go to every person I know that has money and clear out your bank accounts. We're putting the house on.
Hey, well, my question would be: is Klotzy out there? You know, that would be my
Klotzy on Denzel Burke. I might lean my way 1 out of 10 times.
The 1 out of 10 times is funny.
I might have the edge. He might
the turf monster gets him on a running a fade route on the one time.
Yeah.
Will Johnson, give me 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, Boone, he didn't like that.
Yeah, he didn't like that.
Only the best DB in college football. But
ladies and gentlemen, it is 8:52.
Caleb Downs.
It is Wednesday.
Not better than Will.
Therefore, it is Wednesdays with John Maakaron, the publisher of SI's All Lions, which link will be in the description as always, and the host of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Please welcome to the show, the legend, John Maakaron. John, get over here. How you doing?
Yes, fellas. There's no more excited people than the media covering the Lions. We're finally on a break. So tonight we bust out the good stuff, the custom glass, the Eagle Rares out, and we can finally celebrate. Man, going hard since the start of training camp in late July. We get 6 weeks off not to go out to Allen Park. I'm happy, excited, looking forward to previewing everything. Cheers to you guys getting close to 10,000 subscribers. It's a good time. And the vibe as I was leaving Allen Park was so appreciative and grateful. And I'm just excited, as much as tired as I am covering the team full time and having this little break, I'm excited to get back in late July to see and get some answers to some of the key questions you guys are talking about and to get a look at some of these coaches with these football players with pads on, man. It was a great run. And now we can finally take a look at deeply a lot of the things that were said by the position coaches, look at the roster and some roster battles, training camp. It'll be here in just the blink of an eye. So it's great.
You know what, John, we appreciate you as always. We talked a little before about Tanner Engstrand and just his role and kind of the vision for him. And my take on it, John, was this, and I do want your thoughts on this. For Tanner, if I'm looking at it through Tanner's lens, where are you at with Ben's going to leave eventually. He's going to become a head coach. Where are you with Ben Johnson taking Tanner Engstrand with him to be his OC, or maybe Tanner just staying here? Because my argument was, if you're Tanner and I want to be a play caller, I want to be an OC and eventually a head coach one day, you're in a situation where you understand completely in terms of from a personnel perspective, you get it. You get to work with Jared Goff. You get to step right into a highly productive, highly talented offense, and you get to truly call plays because Dan Campbell isn't a play caller. Rather than going with Ben Johnson and going to a worse roster and not calling plays, what does your gut tell you with really the organization's vision for Tanner Engstrand?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, little incorrect. Dan Campbell can call plays. Remember that he stripped Anthony Lynn of the play calling duties and called the plays. And that's when Amon-Ra emerged. When Anthony Lynn couldn't figure out, you got a gem of a rookie. And we can't just run, pass every single time. So Dan Campbell said, we can't handle that. And he just stripped Anthony Lynn of the play calling duties. And I think that Dan Campbell can clearly call offensive plays. And I want you guys to really, and everybody out there listening, to recognize that Dan Campbell has a lot of input in this offense, a lot of input. So for people that get worried regarding Ben Johnson and if he potentially leaves, I think the imprints of Dan Campbell's offense will be all over the organization, whether it be Tanner Engstrand, and it'll be up to the man himself, whether he decides to leave. And it's going to be really the opportunity. If he gets the opportunity, when you really look at it, if Tanner is wise, why would you leave? Because you look at the situation now, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the fold, Jamison Williams is still young, working hard to earn his contract. Jahmyr Gibbs, still a second-year player. And you recognize the offensive talent. You're poised for success. I think the pathway for Tanner to become an NFL head coach would be to stay and learn from Dan Campbell, who's learned from Sean Payton. And I just think that if you're Tanner Engstrand, yeah, maybe it's going to come down to the age-old dollars in regards to an opportunity. But if the Detroit Lions want a solid individual, very wise, Tanner Engstrand would be very wise to stay in Detroit. And I just think that you guys got a chance now to hear him. I just think over the times that we've had a chance to talk to him, very bright, has worked diligently in the passing game. And I just think he'd be a great replacement for Ben Johnson if that time comes. But I also think that, guys, if you're Ben Johnson and you're still young, you got the pick of the litter. I think that you don't leave unless maybe for two jobs, the Chiefs job or the Cowboys. That's it. You can stay. You're only 38 years old. I think that he said he's comfortable. He's enjoying winning. He's in a situation where he's learning extensively with Dan Campbell and the coaching staff. If you're Ben Johnson, I agree. I wouldn't rush to leave. Take an opportunity and get the pick of the litter. Get an opportunity where you get one of the best two jobs set up, because Ben Johnson put it out there. Honestly, he didn't want to take a job because he didn't want to get fired in 3 years. And I just think that Tanner Engstrand is a real solid opportunity, has a real solid chance to be the next offensive coordinator if Ben leaves, but it might not be in 25. It may be 1 year later.
Real quick, Doc, what do you think about when you look over the situation in Buffalo right now with Sean McDermott, how they could possibly have a down year? Could you see Ben looking at Josh Allen and be like, yeah, I'll go ahead and try my shot there?
Oof. Man, but they're in cap hell. They're selling. So that's going to take a minute to rebuild. I think Josh Allen, any quarterback with the talent of Josh Allen is intriguing. But at the same token, I think that if you're Ben Johnson and you're surveying the landscape, I think the road to the Super Bowl and championships is so much easier in the NFC. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the thorn in every head coach's side for the next decade, just due to the fact he's ultra competitive and the talent that he has. I just think that if you're Ben Johnson, you don't try and battle Patrick Mahomes. You try and get the job and see if Andy Reid leaves with another Super Bowl win, you get that job and you ride off into the sunset with a couple wins off of the back of Patrick Mahomes. I think the Bills are always intriguing, but they've sold off pieces, and I think they're on the decline in the next couple of years.
Hey, good news. The Dallas job will be open after this year, so Mike McCarthy will be gone. So Ben Johnson potentially will take that one. Doc, I do want to ask you, though, end of mini camps now, finally. It's over until training camp. I just want to get from you kind of just a simple question here. What's like the one thing here that you took out of the camp that either surprised you or we talked about this the other day, like going into training camp, like whether it's a player that stood out to you that no one's really talking about, or just a position group in general that you're excited to see that stood out a little bit here in mini camps heading into training camp?
Yeah, man. First and foremost, clearly everybody sees the improvements on the defense, starting with clearly the rookies, Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. I got a chance to finally see them in action a little bit more over the last couple OTAs and minicamp. But I just think that when you look at the units in general, I do think that the reserves along the offensive line have an opportunity to be real intriguing. We got a chance to talk to Colby Sorsdahl, and what an intriguing position he's in. He's tasked with learning a lot of positions along the offensive line, and he's going to be basically the Swiss Army knife, a guy that if somebody goes down could be plugged in at left guard, at right guard, and has an opportunity if one of the vets goes down to play this season. So to see the task that he has is going to be real interesting. A unit that surprised, I would say, you know what? A unit that's not really being talked about a lot is the linebackers. I thought the player that I think is going to get a lot of run and some coverage over the course of training camp is Mitchell Agude. I just thought that in the first team period after you had an opportunity to kind of get things going, he would have sacked Hendon Hooker twice in back-to-back reps. I just thought that he was a player that just constantly made plays on special teams, was a hustler, somebody that was just all around the football, making plays every opportunity that we had. And so I looked at it and I said, okay, this is somebody we're going to pay attention to moving forward. I think the linebacking group as a whole, when you look at it, Alex Anzalone and the linebackers coach, Kelvin Shepard, said, you know what? Don't sleep on the vet. He said that Alex has a chance to have an all-pro season this year. And you recognize, you know what? He's a veteran that's had experience, and he kind of embodies what Detroit's about, maybe underlooked, underrated, undervalued, and now is a key leader, the linebacker wearing the green dot. He can have a real solid season mentoring Derek Barnes and Jack Campbell. Guys, if Jack Campbell does take that second-year leap and he's in his right comfortable position and he's great in coverage and has the opportunity to be that thumper and make a lot of tackles, boy, that linebacker group, and then you have maybe Derek Barnes, who every time we talk to him about pass rushing, he just lights up. He gets excited because that's what he did back in Purdue. So if he has his opportunity to be more in the comfortable spot that he needs to be in, you could have a linebacking core that could actually take a lot of significant strides forward. So that linebacking group didn't really get talked about. Maybe they're taking it a little bit personally that the cornerbacks and the defensive linemen are getting all the love and the safeties. So maybe the linebackers are a group that also takes a big stride forward this year too.
Yeah. And Doc, we kind of spoke about it earlier. Gio had some struggles. Will you just give us some insight of what's going on with Gio and how he's progressing along?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it kind of stinks that the final play that we got to see was the offense at 4th and 1 trying to draw the defense offside, and the person that flinched is Gio. So look, it happens, and we had a chance to talk to Hank Fraley and along with 7 other position coaches, and he said, look, it's just a big, huge, significant leap forward playing at this level. And it's just that, and Hank Fraley really put it bluntly and succinctly. If Manu plants incorrectly or his footwork is just a millisecond off, if it's not perfect where it needs to be, the defensive lineman's going to be by him. And that's just how fast the competition is. Now, they're not wearing pads, but clearly Manu is learning the speed of the game. He's learning exactly, in my opinion, clearly run blocking is clearly his strength. He can push forward with massive strength. I saw him get his hands on the defensive linemen and push them back easily. Now, where he struggled a little bit was when he had to back up, backpedal, and set his feet, get in position as he was battling the defensive line. And Wingo got there, and other defensive linemen, man, their pass rush moves were slick. They were getting there. They were doing their thing. And so he's got to develop, and it's consistently. Now, of course, there were some reps that were positive, others that showcase that he's very raw. So look, clearly it's safe to say at this point, Dan Campbell said it, and Dan Campbell is always honest, and it's clear. This is a redshirt year for Manu. It's about learning. It's about a player that they see with massive physical traits. I mean, the man stands out. When you guys go out there to training camp, you will have no problem spotting where Gio is along the offensive line. Most notably, probably he'll be at the left side, but he'll be all over the place learning. And for a young developmental player, it's just about, hey, when we put you at guard, learn to do this on this play and be proficient and be somebody that we can count on rep after rep after rep. And right now, that's not the case. And for basically, it's a rookie. It's a raw rookie learning. And yeah, it struggles, but it's expected when you have somebody that played in Canada. And that is totally different than playing collegiate ball even here in the States. So, Manu, look, I don't doubt, based on his competitiveness, based on when he gets it, look, he's got a whole year. Unless it's a catastrophe, I wouldn't expect him to play all that much out on the field in live game action. So he just got to learn the fundamentals of the game. And what better place to learn than under Hank Fraley?
Yeah, and Doc, also a lot of conversation around the nickel position, who's playing in the slot. And they got a lot of guys that are versatile that can play. Amik Robertson obviously has the tools. Brian Branch played it last year. And there's, they're working Ennis Rakestraw into learning that position. In your eyes, who's the closest? And who do you think, at least it could be a prediction in your eyes, who ends up starting? Because it seems like Brian Branch is a guy that you just have to put out there. You can't take him off the field. But you also have Kirby and Iffy. How is it going to work in your eyes?
Yeah, no doubt. And if you guys had the pleasure of listening to Chris Spielman, if you haven't checked it out at All Lions, check it out. found out that Chris Spielman did a podcast interview with his brother, and it was utterly hilarious. The first part is Chris just listening to the host talking, and he's like, are you guys going to interview me, or are you just going to sit there and bicker like a married couple? And he let loose. It was very entertaining. It wasn't the same serious side of Chris Spielman that you always get in the beginning. It was hilarious as Rick Spielman's trying to be serious and the other host is trying to get into the flow of the interview. And Chris point blank goes, is the only reason why you guys have me on now is it's a slow time. So you guys need to talk ball. So you have me on. So he let loose a little bit, but he said something very interesting. He said that Brian Branch has the opportunity to be the best draft pick the Lions have ever had. And here's why. And Deshae Townsend, I believe, said the same thing in regards to the nickel spot is extremely challenging and demanding because they have to have the awareness of a linebacker, the tackling skills of a defensive back, and be aware of read and recognize every single play and being in the slot against shifty receivers. So that position, and you saw how proficient Brian Branch was. So that lends the belief that, wow, if they're already talking about how proficient he is now, and they think that he can also play safety, man, what an opportunity that we're not even talking all that much about Brian Branch, who they think can even do more and take another step up. And so that's unbelievably special to have Brian Branch. And I enjoyed my conversations with him. A little bit, serious at first, but kind of let his guard down as the season went on. So now if in certain reps, I think the starting safety might end up being Brian Branch, which leads me to believe that they want a smart individual that can do it all. And so you guys are right, probably to assume that at this point, before we hit training camp, that the guy that you'd put in the nickel spot is Amik Robertson. Very bright, very wise, can do it all, and can be somebody that can handle that position, a veteran that Aaron Glenn can obviously clearly mold and have and adapt. But look, there's going to be opportunities where Brian Branch in sub packages, back end nickel, do some things against certain matchups. That's why when you have depth, and then we're not even talking about Ennis Rakestraw, who I believe by the middle of the year, by the bye week, maybe even in that short bye week, that he could get a significant amount of reps and learning opportunities as well. So it's going to be great to see that nickel spot, very key. And you saw right away, game one, Brian Branch had an interception and was a playmaker. So if you can get solid contribution from Robertson early on, I think early on you might have some productivity and some trust in a vet.
Love that. Hey, Doc, I want to ask you this. I asked you this last week about the wide receiver room, and it seems like within the last 7 days, it's been more of a conversation. And at least to me, listening to some of the positional coaches speak today, and then I know shout out to you for asking after our show last week, you went and asked Dan Campbell about Donovan Peoples-Jones. I believe it was either Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson, but got that question in for us. And it seems like it's been more of a talking point, that this kind of wide receiver battle with DPJ, Antoine Green, and in this kind of like wide receiver 4 situation going on. And even Antoine Randall L mentioned it yesterday about how DPJ is in a battle right now, and like that spot is completely open. Have you noticed, like, since we talked to you last week on that and the Dan Campbell question, have you noticed any changes on that, or what are your expectations now in training camp? Because at least to me, on the offensive side of the ball, that seems to be the number one question and the number one battle that's going to happen is this wide receiver room. And even Antoine Randall else said yesterday, he said that, I don't know if anyone caught it, but he mentioned, I'm sure you did, Doc, he said there's a lot of work to be done here still in this room, and he's like, I've got my work cut out for me. So that, thinking that originally that we had a good wide receiver room, and leaving minicamp here, and yeah, we might have our work cut out for us here in this room, we still have some work to do and things to do. Does that worry you at all, or where do you think that wide receiver room goes? Because that worried me hearing that comment a little bit.
Okay, so everybody's concerned and talking about the wide receivers. Should they go out and get another one? Should they target? Should they make the move for T. Higgins, who's disgruntled? Well, look.
Here we go again, Doc.
No, I'm going to say this. When you look at just how proficient Ben Johnson's offense needs to be, precise, receivers need to be where they need to be. So it's clear, okay, right now we can clearly slot 1, 2, 3. It's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown 1, 2, Jamison Williams, 3, Khalif Raymond. That's 1, 2, 3. Lock it up. There's no way. Raymond is proficient. He understands the offense clearly. He made the plays when needed. Okay. Now, it would have been nice had the veterans been there. I think DPJ would have benefited from another week being there, but he's a vet. He's afforded the opportunity to go home. Same as Antoine Green. So you look at it and you say, okay, who has the opportunity to battle? Well, it could be Caden Davis. It could be Isaiah Williams, the undrafted free agent. It could be Donovan Peoples-Jones. It could be Antoine Green. But you have options. You have competition in that room, and they're going to battle it out. So top three, I wouldn't have concern. And one of them is going to stand out. I don't think that both Donovan Peoples-Jones and Antoine Green are going to fail. So someone's going to have to take the job and earn it. And that's what training camp is going to be about. I think that, guys, when you look at wide receiver 4 options, you're worrying a little bit too much. Have a glass, relax. Guys, wide receiver 4 is not going to get all that much in regards to targets. Deep threat here or there, play, maybe 3 plays a game. Relax. You look at it and you say, look at all the options. Option 1, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs. That's 6 different options that you can sit back and smile, relax. The obsession with WR4 is great to have. I love it. You guys are concerned, but Khalif Raymond can handle business. And I do think that intermediately, Green and DPJ will compete and have an opportunity. And just inside knowledge, after practice, DPJ was regularly talking to Raymond, learning about the offense and continuing to grow. Now, why is it a challenge? Because Ben Johnson is a stickler. He's a perfectionist. You need to be where you need to be. And that's what Antoine Randall said Jamison Williams has improved at, is that, last year he was able to be moved off his spot pretty quickly, and that fucks up the timing with Jared Goff. And he don't like that at all. He is a stickler as well. If you need to be 7 yards at the cut by the time the ball's out, you need to be there. If you're not there, you're not getting the ball. Or if you end up being in a spot where you don't need to be, Ben Johnson is not going to be happy. So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, legend, needs to be and is always where he needs to be, to the fact that last year in training camp, I just walked up to him and said, man, I don't know if this is the best compliment I can give you, but when I watch you play, you make the game look easy. Like you just are exactly where you need to be. You run the route. It's smooth. You catch the ball. You go home. It's every day. And he smiled and said, thank you. And he just is going to continue to do it. That's the sign of a legend, is somebody that makes the game look easy as you watch it. With Jamison Williams, if he can just turn off the phone, stay off of social media, stay off the jiggling on the social media, and just focus nonstop on football, legend in the making. Look,
what a word.
Phone. Do what you got to do. But you're a pro athlete. Turn off the phone, man. We don't care. Listen, we know you got the bling. We know you got the cash. We know you like to get jiggy with it. Turn the camera off, because pretty soon, I'm thinking the way this progresses is the next video. I might have to swoop in there and be like, J-Mo, all the videos are of you by yourself. Don't you got any honeys you want to share online? And what's going on? Don't you want to share who you're hanging out with? I mean, we like the J-Mo, but we like to see who you're hanging out with too. Don't you got any game? Don't you got any swagger? Put some of the ladies you're hanging out with on camera too. At the same token, guys, relax. It's
a legend
at all regarding wide receiver. I think one of the guys is going to step up. They're going to have to keep their job.
Yeah,
Doc, you're a legend, man.
Sips his bourbon afterwards.
Yeah, that's a boss. Lucas, you got something?
I sorry, was dealing with Wi-Fi issues there. But Doc, I told you that we're gonna start needing the weekly Vaki update. So what did you get from Sion Vaki this week? Anything? Did he progress? Did he degress a little bit? What's the weekly Vaki update?
I heard he was cooking, Doc.
He was cooking. He got the intermediate route over the middle there, connected with Hooker, made a play. The guy's a pro. I just think that he understands that, look, the opportunity's there to compete with Craig Reynolds. It's going to be tough. I think clearly, though, that he's been told the pathway for him to play is going to be on special teams, and he's going to compete. He's going to have to make plays in the preseason in order to get that jump, because Craig Reynolds understands everything, is a couple years ahead. And I think the coaching staff, in order to take someone's job, you got to be clearly the best option. So for Vaki, great opportunity for him to learn. And for him, I just think that stellar spring for him. I think that he did everything he needed to do in this spring. You can be happy with that pick. I think that's going to be a sneaky good pick for the Detroit Lions, especially on special teams with the kickoff and opportunities to make plays there. You recognize as many opportunities as you can to make plays on special teams that'll impress the coaches. That'll get you opportunities out on the field as well. And let's check out the preseason. I can't wait to see the first preseason game that Thursday against the Giants.
Yeah, and
he's
Doc,
probably getting a lot of usage preseason too.
Yeah, he will.
Kick return.
Doc, I had one more question for you. Obviously, the Lions still have some money to spend. Do you think they go out and address the defensive line, or do you think they're kind of comfortable with the guys they have?
Yeah, it was interesting, that move, for Nyman, I believe, over the Ohio State linebacker. That was real interesting. I think Steel Chambers got picked up by the Patriots, so that's real interesting. It's a credit to the Lions that their players are coveted, and maybe he'll have a chance to develop. But it's interesting. Look, in terms of offseason moves, I thought it was great to hear that Jake Bates was in the building. I think that's going to be a fun competition if he does end up signing with Detroit. I think that it'll be a fun three-way competition. But I just think that the players that you would target at this point before training camp might be a reserve, might be somebody that you need. And Dan Campbell said it, actually. In his final session, if you go back and listen, somebody asked in regards to, hey, do you need anything before training camp? And Dan Campbell said that this week he was going to talk to Brad Holmes. And most notably, it's going to be for competition depth. So right now there's 89 members, I believe, on the Lions roster. So there's one open spot. Maybe defensive line. Maybe you look at a situation in which you continue to upgrade the safeties as well for competition. But at this point in time, it's not somebody that you would be clear cut. This is the 90th member of the roster. So it would be somebody that's going to come in and battle and give the incumbent a strong fight in camp. And that's all that Dan Campbell said was, look, depth competition at different spots is a signing we could make, or they could not make one at all. It's not pressing in any way, shape, or form, but maybe the position that you could target if the concern is there based on the spring, maybe you move on from one of the undrafted free agent wideouts and you pick up another one. But I think the Lions are sitting pretty with their roster right now, and everything that will take place will be to add depth and competition for training camp. A camp
Great.
vibe.
It's a great point, Doc.
They say
it's a great point about those wideouts.
Doc, I gotta ask you. You kind of alluded to it, but Jake Bates meeting with the Lions. What are and there's been some mixed. We're on a roller coaster, Doc. We were going up and up and up and up, and the Jake Bates hype, and everyone thinks he's the Lord and Savior. And then now it seems like we're going down. It's like, who is this guy? I mean, he struggled towards the end of the UFL season. All this stuff. Based on what you've seen. And I did misspeak the other day. I did a video on Jake Bates, and I called James Turner. I just didn't think he was it. Got a lot of pushback because he's been playing really well. I did misspeak. He has been.
He hasn't missed
well.
a kick, Jeff.
I know. I guess it's about me really foreshadowing. Is he the answer? I'll let you answer that, Doc. Where are you at with the kicking battle? If they sign Jake Bates, and do you think if they do sign him, he's a real threat to take that starting kicking job?
My God, Jeff, the disrespect. I think I did a story about James Turner having a legitimate shot to beat Badgley. So I look at it and I say, okay, maybe I'll talk to the engineers over the break and be like, I need the font to be like 55 and bold so that the youth can read the story. I know they like to read the headline and skim and watch me on the videos, but in the body of the story, I laid out that in team drills, I don't think I saw Turner miss a kick. It was great. Now, in individuals, one-on-one, there were misses clearly, but the Bates love is great. It's going to be intrigue, and you have to do your due diligence. I mean, he did play well at Ford Field, but he tailed off. And, man, first and foremost, you guys went out there and fucking jinxed the Panthers. They had a lead and fucking couldn't close. What an embarrassing end to their season. I finally tuned into a game. They got a lead, and in the playoffs, no less, they couldn't close the deal. I was like, oh my God, what a shitty ending to their year. And then you got Bates, who throughout the beginning of the UFL season made a name for himself, but then in the second half, you kind of got a sense of why the NFL moved on from him with some kind of easy misses and some struggles outdoors. But you look at it, and I say this: the NFL's entertainment. You're going to need bodies at camp. Hey, storylines that can maybe distract from things that you don't want being talked about. And I think that having Bates sign, if you're Bates, I wouldn't sign here because I don't think that it's going to be a job that you're going to clearly get unless you don't miss a kick and you make from 55 and beyond consistently. I go somewhere else. I say that you don't come to Detroit, but maybe the opportunity to kick indoors is always appealing, but I don't think he has a realistic chance of winning the job. I don't even think he signs with Detroit, to be honest.
Wow.
I could be wrong, but I don't think he signs with Detroit.
It's interesting. The worst situation would be him end up signing with the Green Bay Packers and ended up becoming a really good kicker there because he did visit with them.
Hey, but you know what, Booner? You know what? That's on me because James Turner, that's on me. That's on me. Doc, we did talk about this, and I think we even had the conversation with you about how great James Turner's been. So that's that. I'm taking accountability. That's with the hours and hours of doing this. Yeah, I'm going to misspeak. So that's on me. That's on me. I'll take accountability.
We all run into that. I do that all the time.
Excuses, Iafrate.
It does.
Excuses, Iafrate.
That's all it sounds like.
Doc, it's on me. It's on me.
Last question for you here, Doc. Here today, I want to bring this up because yesterday on the show, and I think I was the first one in the whole city, and maybe the first person in the country and the world, to put my flag on this. But I made the statement yesterday that I do believe that Aiden Hutchinson this year will win Defensive Player of the Year. I've been hearing, and it sounds like, and you can confirm this potentially, being that you've seen practices, and I know it's minicamp and OTAs. We know what Aiden Hutchinson can do with pads on. But from what it sounds like in Terrell Williams speaking to the media, it sounds like he's taken an even bigger step, and he's taken a step to where a guy like him, the way he played last year to end the season, basically the 6-game stretch to end the year, 1 sack a game essentially, and for him to take a step forward, that's essentially being an all-pro defensive edge rusher, a premier edge rusher in the NFL, and compete for a Defensive Player of the Year. And it sounds like he so far has taken that step this offseason, and he just keeps growing and growing and growing and getting better. Where do you kind of stand on that? You were in Allen Park the last couple of weeks. Am I crazy for planting the flag and being the very first one on the scene to say, watch out for this Defensive Player of the Year campaign from Aiden Hutchinson, or am I spot on with this one? Where would you say I stand on that one?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I think clearly Aiden Hutchinson, the 89th member of the Lions that you love and adore. So good on you. I think that Aiden Hutchinson is easy to root for. First and foremost, he let it loose that he's starting a podcast. So that's great. He wants to get into the entertainment game and he wants to have some fun, do some interviews. I heard whispers based on online chatter. And so after a practice, after everybody was done, I'm like, hey, are you starting a podcast? And he's like, yeah. I said, I'll be listening, and it'll be great to have his insights. And you heard what Terrell Williams said. He said, look, the man studies, man does his work, and the man heard the criticisms that, hey, step it up, that double-digit sacks is not enough. You can't have 3-4 games where you're not doing what you need to be doing. But I think that experience in and of itself, where he had a good year, double-digit sacks is not easy, but you're paid and your expectation is to have 15 sacks and dominate. And look, Terrell Williams was point blank asked by a columnist, hey, can a player kind of single-handedly carry a defensive line? And Terrell Williams said, I don't think so, that you got to have help. You got to have opportunities to do some things, and you got to have help. So to be able to have success, I think that, yes, Aiden Hutchinson has the capabilities to be able to have a big year, 15 sacks, has the opportunity, like you said, to win big awards. The man works. He's competitive, and he wants to be great. And that's why they made him the number 2 overall pick. So I would not be shocked in any way, shape, or form. If James Houston, Wingo, Davenport, if they can step up, Aleem McNeil, and help out and get 5 to 10 sacks, pressure the quarterback, take some pressure off of Aiden, I think he's going to relax. He muscled up, and I think he's poised for 15 sacks this year and would be a strong candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. And to those in the chat, no, I do not smoke any weed. I am just a guy that enjoys a cocktail and enjoys talking shit on the internet and doing podcasts. And like Phil said, not single-handedly saving Sports Illustrated, but being part of a team that has been so rewarding and has let loose somebody that over 5 years gained confidence, because when you're out there, you end up believing like, okay, do I belong here the first year? And then you got Matt Patricia, who you ask a question and gives 5,000 words that makes you fall asleep before you even try to pay attention for a follow-up. And then as you get more comfortable, you just do the job and you recognize, wait a minute, I see what everybody else sees. I'm just going to write what I see. And everybody sees it, quick-paced, everything there. And you boys, credit to you. Cheers really to you. You helped me take it to the next level this year with the work you did, the hustle you guys did, made me go, damn, I'm not doing enough. So I'm doing more podcasts and enjoying life to the fullest. And covering the NFL is no joke. It's one thing to get there to cover the NFL. It's another thing to stay there for 5 years and to have fun and to do it and to enjoy it and not get burned out. So to see, and boys, winning is fun for everyone. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Since 2013, I covered the worst shitty NFL team in the league until 2022, where things started to turn around, and to be able to be a part of it. Now I'm enjoying the fruits of the labor to cover a winning team. Man, I can't wait. Like I only need like 3-4 days. I just need till Monday, and I'm ready to go back out there and grind for another year because I believe it. And I'm saying it now. The biggest takeaway I had on the video podcast that I recorded that night, I feel like I'm watching a Super Bowl team. I feel it. I feel like I saw the planting of the seed of a Super Bowl team. And I could be in fantasy land, and I could be eagle reared up at the moment. I could be loving all the hype, but at the same token, it's hype season. Why not enjoy it? Why not actually believe in the fairy tale that this football team can go out there, win 13 games, compete at the highest level? And literally, if you believe in fairy tales, Dan Campbell hoisting the Lombardi Trophy in New Orleans with Aaron Glenn. Woo. Fairy tale ending. And I'd have an opportunity, like I said, I'd have an opportunity to be there and send reports back to you guys. I would literally be there sending reports to one of my favorite podcasts out there. And I just, like I said, I really believed. And maybe, like I said, it's romanticism, and I'm believing all the stuff that you guys keep saying as well. But I truly believe I saw the competitive nature, the grind, the grit, the pissed off team that is like, wait a minute, we choked away a Super Bowl. And now if you get that back, I just love the line. I thought the line of, and I hope it happens, the line of camp was Aleem McNeil. He said, when DJ Reader's next to me, I see destruction. Boys, this could be a year of destruction for the league. And everybody's put on notice. Dan Campbell's squad's coming to kick your ass and smile on your face and enjoy it.
Doc, I just want to confirm, because you just went off there for a second. I just want to confirm. I want to confirm one thing. It sounds like, and fellas, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking the wrong way. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like I have officially received an endorsement from the one, the only John Maakaron for the Booner Path to go win a Super Bowl. And not even just that, but he's endorsed the idea now, another path on this Booner Path, Aiden Hutchinson win the Defensive Player of the Year. It's not like I got a double endorsement here from the legend. John,
he doesn't give those out.
I'm going to make a list of people with endorsements, and I will tell you what, a name that's on there is Herman Moore. He is an endorsement of the Booner Path. You are now right underneath Herman Moore. John Maakaron.
Hutch Path has officially been kicked off. Hutch 2024 for Defensive Player of the Year. And everybody, I really think this has the chance. Like literally, Jahmyr Gibbs, breakout year. St. Brown, breakout year again. Reliable. Sam Laporta, maybe in the conversation with Kelsey Laporta. You look at Jamison Williams, maybe just takes that next step forward. That offense is going to be lethal. Now you got Hutchinson sacking the quarterback. You got DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil stuffing the run. You get Broderick Martin in there getting some spot opportunities to cause havoc, make some key plays. There's a lot of positivity that's not blowing smoke. And I know all the headlines. Aiden Hutchinson looks great. This guy's the best shape of his life. I know all those headlines. I try not to write them, but I have an affiliation with a paper, so I do want to send quality headlines to a newspaper. But I look at it and I say,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, the hype is real, but it's believable this year. The Booner Path is not just a fan, it's real. And I think the opportunity is there for opportunities for this football team to have a lot of all-pros, a lot of Pro Bowlers, a lot of accolades, and maybe even if Tyler doesn't believe the award is realistic, maybe the most realistic award is Dan Campbell Coach of the Year.
Wow.
I did think, Doc, I did say with the Defensive Player of the Year thing, a lot of that does come down to, like you saw, I explained it yesterday, it comes down to narrative, essentially. Like, does the news and does the media take a hold of it, and essentially, like, who is leading in the narrative? Yeah, you have to have the stats, but you saw Myles Garrett played great the first half of the year. The narrative got written instantly in the media that he's the Defensive Player of the Year, and then struggled down the stretch, but still won it. And that was my point yesterday, was I will be the one, and I started the campaign yesterday, that I will push the Aiden Hutchinson propaganda And it started yesterday, Doc, and now today through you, we are pushing the Aiden Hutchinson propaganda into week 1 when he sacks Matthew Stafford 2 times on Sunday Night Football, and everyone will be talking about Defensive Player of the Year, and that's when the narrative of him winning it starts, and you do not, it just keeps going from there.
Okay, Booner, are you sure you're the one that deserves the credit? I thought I heard the Spenny Path get there first. Are you sure that you got it first? Are you sure that you got it first?
Don't do that. Don't do this to me, Doc. This is
blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
Because you know what, Doc? No, we'll get into this real quick. I love you, but the Spenny Path. The reason the Booner Path got made to go to the NFC Championship game was because the heavyweights and Spenny, they said the season was over at the trade deadline, and someone had to tell them and look them in their eyes and say, listen, you guys are dead wrong. You don't know what you're like. No, they do know what they're talking about, but with this, when it comes to this, you don't know what's going on. They will go to the NFC Championship game. Watch what happens. Just because they didn't do a trade deadline doesn't mean they can't win football games, and they went and did it. So if anyone gets to anyone can't do a path, it's Spenny can't have a path. I love Spenny.
Oh man, the best part
was made because of them.
Yeah, the best part of doing this is being a psychologist is using the mental warfare for trolling, and it's great. Look, you and the fellas are great. You want the credit, fine. Okay, if it happens, look, here's what we need to do. You need to once in a while tag Hutchinson, invite yourself on his podcast, shoot him a message, say, hey, I got this local podcast. It's really big. I want to get on your podcast and tout why you need to be the Defensive Player of the Year and just be the guy that says, hey, I'm carrying the flag for Hutch to be no matter what. If he gets 8 sacks, 9 sacks, you're the guy that plants the flag and is the guy that's championing the NFL. Tag the NFL, tag all the writers, tag the bigwigs, tag Adam Schefter, and let him know that Hutch, when he's got a highlight, tag the people and just be on the path. You can't just say it here on the show. You got to be out there online as well. And hopefully Hutch hears this and puts you on the show because it'll be entertaining and it'll be an opportunity for you to share why you believe Hutchinson is going to emerge and beat out Myles Garrett. I think that's the biggest competition for Hutch is Garrett's a sack monster, and he's just somebody that racks it up quickly, gets 2-3 sacks a game. And I just hope that Hutchinson keeps pace, and I do think that at least he'll be in the conversation. He'll be talked about. Breakout season ahead for Aiden Hutchinson. I think a lot of good things are going to happen for the Lions defense. I think the biggest thing that they did was bring an established vet as a defensive line coach and not a first-year somebody learning on the job.
Oh, well, hey, Doc, you're the man. I'm going to make sure to do that. The Hutch Defensive Player of the Year is another road. It's like a sidewalk attached to the Booner Path. So I'm using the Booner Path to push the Hutch narrative. I'll bring the Booner Path army together to push the narrative. We do have a big army too. You know what, everyone right now, Doc, the army, everyone just drop Booner Path emojis in the chat here if you think Hutch can do it.
Hashtag it Booner Path. All the tweets out there on X. Hashtag Booner Path.
Hashtag Booner Path, baby.
Going. Let big people see it. I'll throw 1 or 2 out there for you to show love in something that can be seen by a lot. Hashtag Booner Path. Let it keep growing. And look, man, you guys are doing great, and you're a big part of the community, and people are recognizing what you're doing. And it's always fun as well to see, opportunities for individuals to keep growing and doing their thing. Like you guys said, you wanted 10,000 by training camp. I think you guys should get to 12,000 by then.
Let's do it, Doc. With the help of you, of course, every single Wednesday, the man, the myth, the legend, John Maakaron. Check out his stuff, man. All Lions, SI Zone. He's working his ass off, Doc. You're going to have some time here, about 6 weeks to indulge in whatever you want to indulge in. Maybe you're putting out some stuff, obviously, on All Lions, but enjoy some rest, Doc, and then we'll see you back for training camp. We'll see you next Wednesday. Can't wait for it. We appreciate
you, Doc.
Yes. Hashtag Doc Path is going to be finally getting the invite for Miami swimsuit party, baby. Me and Kristen Harper doing an interview. So, Kristen, tell us about your evening here donning this beautiful sports line. What are you wearing, dear? And that would be spectacular content. The Doc and Kristen Harper. Doc here with SI All Lions. Kristen, what's it like being married to QB1 Jared Goff? What's it like, darling? And
Doc, you're there for different reasons, Doc.
Yeah,
you're there for
I'm here for different reasons. Can you come on my podcast, please? And maybe we'll ask some of those inappropriate questions, like, over under 25 minutes? What are we thinking here? So, how's you're doing in the department? He's keeping, he's a little bit younger. You like the young stallions, huh, Gal?
Is he keeping you happy? Is he keeping you happy?
Is he keeping you happy?
Love the hat, by the way, Doc.
Yeah, I'm sure he's keeping her happy in a lot of different ways.
Doc is
what are you gonna say, Boone?
Nothing, man. Just
hey, Doc. By the way, wanted to say before you leave, I love the hat. Love the hat.
Yes, sir.
We're getting our merch now pushed. We're trying to get the merch going. So
let's go.
Merchandise.
Yes,
here.
guys. Keep the donation strong for the boys. I'll check back with you guys next week. I look forward to it.
All right, there you go. John Maakaron, SI, all Lions own, host of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Man, he's riot. I mean, he's you know what? That's what I love about Doc is he'll say all this information that is valuable, and then he might throw you a little curveball in there. You know, he might throw you
Christian Harper love.
Yeah. I'll be getting an interview with the swimsuit models. We'll all join. We'll let us know when
the man's working his opportunities with the SI. That's all he's doing. He's taking advantage of opportunities, creating plays. That's all he's trying to do. Don't hate the player, hate the game, hate the game.
That's all you gotta do. Well, boys, one
great interview. That was great, dude. That was great.
I know a player you can never hate, and that is Chris Spielman. You just can't. Guy is he's the best. And he had an interview, Rick Spielman, his brother. And I want to make sure Ryan Wilson of CBS. He sat down, had an interview today, or I don't know if it was today, but it was posted today.
It was today. Yeah. No, I think it was this morning, actually. The way they were talking, it sounded like it was.
And I want to give credit, at least for me. I know a lot of people just found it, but Michael at Roar Roundup, he does a great job. You should go check out his stuff, man. I mean, he's doing a service to the people by what he does on Roar Roundup. He just posts really the latest news in local Detroit, sports related. Yeah, he does a great job. But he sent me this interview, and I checked it out. I know you watched it too, Boone. So we're going to get into some clips from the interview, and we have some timestamps here. Shout out to Booner for that, by the way.
And it's too real quick before we go. Chris Spielman, it's one of the more, like Doc said it, when you listen to him speak, he's always so serious in press conferences, and he's all about business. And I didn't get the timestamp of this, but he mentioned, and maybe I did, and maybe we'll listen to it. But the thing he mentioned, and keep this in mind while listening to Chris Spielman, is he is very content with being like, I don't want the spotlight. I don't care about the spotlight. Like they asked him, like, hey, do people come up to you in Detroit and do the fans still love you? And he's like, I honestly don't want any of that. Like I want to, like, I've had my time in the league. I've had my time as a media member. I've had my time as everything. He was like, all I want to do is help bring Sheila Hamp in the city of Detroit a Super Bowl. And I want to do it in the shadows. And he doesn't care. So like, he never, like he speaks to the media and he's always so serious. This is like the first time, like, at least me, I've seen him like really just open up and just beat Chris Spielman and like, just beat like with his brother. Like it's just a great interview. And every, like the clips that I got, I think hopefully they're good timestamps, but there's just so much more. If you guys haven't watched this, it's an hour long. Like it is well worth the hour. Right there, I wanted to timestamp every single part of him talking because everything he talked about, it's literally the behind the scenes of how the whole Detroit Lions organization has been built the last 2 years. That's all this is. It's unbelievable.
Well, let's get to the first clip. He talked about Dan Campbell and really what came with that decision when they originally hired Dan Campbell, and he told some stories about just seeing Dan Campbell when he was with New Orleans as an assistant, and he went to a practice and he's watching. He's like, okay, I see Sean Payton. Like, it's Sean Payton. I know what to expect out of him. But the guy that stood out was 6'5", 240 Dan Campbell, just walking around commanding practice. Just, yeah, like absolutely standing out. But let's get to what he said here about Dan Campbell and the decision to hire him.
And that dude did not change. He did not panic. And everybody on the inside that knew this team, we saw it turning. It's just we couldn't get over that hump. And once we got over the hump, then guys started playing with confidence. Because I will say this, that NFL players are probably a lot of them are paranoid, which is an edge. It can give you an edge. A lot of them are insecure, even though they come across as this badass macho dude, and especially when you're losing. So when the players get like that and they start playing for CYA, cover their own ass, well, at least I'm doing my job. But our team never did that, and that's in a credit to not only Dan, but the whole coaching staff involved, and they just hung in there. Then, you know, those of us that were evaluating the team and advising you, I said, you know, it's turning. You got to, you know, I'm your special assistant, so you got to kind of trust me on this, that it is turning. And other people were telling her, and sure enough, it turned.
I hope that wasn't confusing.
No, that was I mean, when you watch the clip, and look at what he's saying there, I think it's important to take away that when they were 1-6, there was a lot of criticism, and I think Dan Campbell's leadership and who he is as a person and a coach kept that ship stable. And he mentioned it in the interview too, that players respect a guy who's just 100%. He's just real. You know, he's true to himself, and you know, he always has the right intentions. He says it how it is. And especially when they have the year they had to start, which we all understood they were going to be bad, but that second year, 1-6, for them to go 8-2 down the stretch like that showed right there the belief they still had in the coach. Like he never lost the locker room. You know, that's like one of the biggest things I'm still impressed with Dan Campbell is like, and I know they were on Hard Knocks and everything like that. So you got to see maybe an inside look to how he runs things, but man, he makes guys believe. I mean, and that goes back to, you know, when I always mention it on the pod too, when talking about players, he gets everything out of players. And I think that's why, guys. I mean, I do.
I mean, it goes just to show how important the culture is and why they're so careful with the players they bring in. You go through that situation with the Stephon Diggs. I mean, look what was happening in Buffalo when they were losing this year. You bring in players like that can potentially cost Dan Campbell his job. They start losing games. Okay, now they're going to start looking at the GM. So that's a perfect example of why they're so careful to place the certain players that they do on this roster, because when shit goes wrong, it's not a lot of ego. It's all about the team, and I think that's why they invest the money that they did in Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Penei Sewell, because they know that those guys on the offense, Jared Goff as well, can contribute to leading that down, even to the guys that are rookies this year, next year, the veterans that are playing in a bad situation that were probably getting ready to dip. They can be like, hey, none of that shit's flying here. This is how we run football in Detroit, and it's just something that's very important for this team.
So, yeah, and like with that too, and really like the whole – that clip there of Chris basically talking about how you bring Dan in, and right before that, Jeff, I know earlier in the show you were talking about how Dan is just so comfortable in his body and who he is and what he's about, that like he doesn't care about making decisions or bringing in coaches that are potentially better than him or this or that. And that was essentially what Chris Spielman's saying was like, we were losing, you know, we won 3 games from the first season and everyone's outside is panicking. And, you know, Sheila even, you know, might have go to Chris and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, and he's like, no, like, trust me, things are happening here. Like, I see what's happening. And Brad knows what's happening with these players. They're bringing the right guys in. And then this turnaround starts to happen. And that was when Chris Spielman at the end there was like, listen, I'm supposed to be your special assistant next to you. Like, you have to trust me with this stuff. And now you see the long-term payoff of trusting a guy like Chris Spielman, who brought in Dan and said, hey, we're doing things the right way. Like, this is what we want to do. And this is what we're about. And we're going to do things the right way. And they did that. And I think it just bleeds down from all the way up from Chris Spielman to Brad Holmes, to Dan Campbell, to the players. And now when you start bringing new players in, I always go back to like the Patriots and all these different organizations who like go on these runs of like, you know, like Chiefs, and like you get that consistency of like coming to work every day and being like, hey, this is what we were about. And like old Lions teams, you never had that and no one ever implemented it. So no one ever got to know what that's like. Now you know what it's like to show up to work and be like, hey, we're working at a very, very high level here. And Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell, they teach that to Antoine Green and Colby Sorsdale. And then in 10 years, when those guys have to retire, those guys will teach it to the next group. And that's when you start kind of actually getting a real organization. And Chris Spielman started that from the top, which is like unbelievable to see. It's the what's the carry down or the snowball effect, I guess,
yep.
or like kind of like it's like an IV, it's like a drip. Like you're just learning from everyone, and it carries over for the next 15 years.
Yeah, well, he also talked about Dan Campbell, how he's handling Super Bowl expectations, which I think was a great part of this as well. So let's get to what Chris said about Dan and how he's handling this upcoming season.
In the next year.
He gets more pissed. Well, you know, like, oh my gosh, everybody's supposed to be better. Well, we're going to be better. I mean, we added some pretty darn good pieces, right? I think hopefully he's had a really good spring, I think, is Carlton Davis. A big, long corner from Tampa that we got. You bring in Terry Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. You look at DJ Reader. Hopefully he'll be ready by the start of the season from Cincinnati, right? You look at the players that we've added along with the core that we have. I think we're going to be a better football team. Like I told Ben the other day, he asked me what I thought about the Springs compared to 21 and 22 heading into in 23. And I said, man, this is by far the best spring that we've had. And I think you can just see it, right? You can see good players, man. And my first year here, I thought, oh my gosh, I thought the UFL started early in Detroit when I first got here. It's not against anything in the UFL, but there's a reason why guys are in the UFL or the XFL or whatever it is. It was bad. Great guys, don't get me wrong, but I cannot tell a lie, and I respect you two to not to tell you the truth. We didn't have a very good team, right? We had couple good players here and there, but it was basically, and we'd be lying if we didn't say it, this was tore down completely, man. Completely tore down and started from over. I mean, we're starting, I don't know. I can't remember how many rookies started that year and when we won 3 games. I think maybe like, I don't know, we might have had 6 or 7 starting rookies, about 4 of them undrafted free agents, rookie free agents. So, but no, he just gets, it's his edge, man. Like, and well, Chicago's going to be better, and they are. Very well, maybe. Green Bay's going to be better. Very well, maybe. Minnesota will be. That's great. What are we? Or we just stand in place and do nothing and let everybody catch us. And you embrace the tag of being the hunted, which is awesome. You embrace that. You don't run away from that.
Yeah.
Very interesting comments.
Yeah,
when he said that, my head instantly goes to like Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams, Juju Hughes. And you could just think of just the absolute players that should not have been on an NFL roster, but they were starting for the Detroit Lions. They would have been second and third strings across probably 95% of the rest of the NFL. Outside of maybe at that time, I'm trying to think of who was just complete ass during that time. Maybe
Pimpleton.
Oh my God. Khalil Pimpleton. I forgot about him.
The juggling.
The juggling master. Central Michigan, I think, too.
Yeah, you know what, Chris, and by the way, Dan must be getting an influence on everyone using man. Come on, man. We were bad, man.
But he's an Ohio native right there.
Anything that wasn't true, though, he did.
The thing that I liked the most out of that whole clip there was at the end, because we've been hearing this the whole time. Like, hey, and it's the AJ Hawk situation where AJ Hawk's like, oh, what do the Lions do? Like, the Packers are that much better. Like, the Packers are the ones now to beat in the division. All right, AJ Hawk, listen to this Chris Spielman talk real quick. You think, yeah, the Bears got better. Cool. Packers got better. Cool. Vikings, I don't know what they did. Maybe they got better. Cool. But what Chris Spielman said, what do we do? Just sit here and sit on our hands and not do anything? And no, this Detroit Lions team just went to an NFC Championship game, got better, and you have Dan Campbell there, motivated as ever to get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. Like, Chris Spielman's right. Like, what are we all talking? It's a lot of people right now are kind of lower on the Lions. Yeah, maybe the percentages show that they're not, but everyone's at a question. Oh, the Lions, can they actually do it back-to-back years with Dan Campbell and the expectations? I promise you they will.
Yeah, I'm surprised that I think a lot of people do respect what the Lions did this offseason, but I think people are looking at the Bears, and I think that just distracts them because they brought in Keenan Allen, they drafted Caleb Williams. They probably had the most significant offseason for what they had, but I don't think it almost turns the narrative like, all right, Bears had the best offseason. Packers, they got Jordan Love. He's going to get better. I think by default, those two teams are a lot better. Let's forget about the Lions. But you look at the Lions offseason compared to the Packers, as far as an offseason go, Lions had a better one. The Vikings, Booner, you brought it up. What did they do? They brought in Alex Van Ginkel and Jonathan Greenard. Like, those are good pieces. They drafted solid players, but that's not better than going into Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, especially when you had the worst secondary in the NFL. I don't care what statistics show. That was a worse secondary than the Commanders last year, the worst secondary in the NFL. So I think people just realize that the Lions are good, but they're not understanding of how good their offseason was for what they needed.
They were the second best team in the NFC last year, correct? Like essentially you losing the chance. You were the second best team in the NFC. You can only get so much better. Like when you already have a roster that's built, you can only add so much more. And you could still make an argument that a Detroit Lions team that just lost the NFC Championship game had the best offseason in the NFC North. You can make that argument based on what they added and the pieces they needed to get better. And they already were in the NFC Championship game. And then they added pieces in position groups that they were missed. Like it's a weird narrative that gets written. I think it's more so just other like Bears and Packers fans.
Yeah, it's like the Lions had the least amount of work to do. And that by default, because the moves weren't all there, even though the moves were there, but in terms of like the number of moves, people just assume they didn't get much better. It's like, no, they got better. It's just the Chicago, the Packers, the Vikings needed to make more moves. Like they needed to make more moves. They need to get to where the Lions are getting, and the Lions just have to get to a Super Bowl. Like that's really it.
Especially like offensively, the Lions, they lost Jonah Jackson. They brought in Kevin Zeitler. Like the Bears, they needed to bring in Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and draft a quarterback. Oh, and they brought in DeAndre Swift. The Packers, wide receivers, they were fine, but they brought in Josh Jacobs. They needed to add to that offensive line throughout the draft. Yep. The Lions offense, honestly, and I'm not saying that they didn't need to do anything because they lost Jonah, but if they would have walked into week one with just getting some like Joe Schmo at guard instead of Kevin Zeitler, they still would have by far had the most probably dynamic offense in the NFC North. Defensively is another conversation, but like we just talked about, Jack Campbell year 2, we all expect him to be a monster, and then they added the secondary. I'll hear you out about the defensive end position because we're all concerned about it, but then you bring in DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil is going to be getting a lot of pressures to force that way going to Hutch.
I want to real quick. I want to play one more part before we end the show here, and it was him. Really, what you said earlier, Boone, about Brian Branch potentially being the best pick, which I thought was it was interesting to hear that. But let's hear Chris Spielman on Brian Branch and really drafting Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell because he does bring that up as well. But let's hear what he had to say here.
So Brad is big on, and I'm big on this too, is you don't worry about the position. You just draft the player. And so, for example, like Jahmyr, everybody, when we drafted Jahmyr, what was he, 12th overall?
12th.
12th. And everybody say, oh, my gosh, you took the running back. Well, yeah, we did, but Jahmyr is going to be much more than a running back, right? And I think, it's been reported that, he's got some wide receiver skills. Rick saw him at Alabama plenty. He has some wide receiver skills. So he's a matchup nightmare. So you're drafting a football player and you're drafting a running back that could also be a little bit of a slot guy. So you're drafting a guy that's a problem. That's when Brad, you ever see those shirts that say villain or stuff? Like Jahmyr can be a villain for another team, right? So you draft these villains. Then you say, okay, well, you draft Jack Campbell. You're not, he's a linebacker. And yeah, I agree. That's drafting linebackers, but what you're drafting is not only a really good linebacker who I think is going to have a really good year this year. You're drafting a guy that's going to be in the middle of your defense and eventually be the green dot and a productive player for the next 10 years. Oh, by the way, he's a leader. He's a leader, and you can see that in him, and guys listen to him. So we kind of just go off of you invest in that reliability, and they have AA, they have competes, they have instincts, and they're not an idiot. It's a pretty good formula to go by.
How much influence do you put on, and I know the answer to this, but like a Brian Branch who runs a 4.51, but or a Laporta?
Well, I'd be happy if he ran 4.51.
Or even Laporta, like he had 22 out routes that he caught the whole time he was at Iowa.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, I'm only going to speak for me. I'm not going to speak for Brad. With Brian, all you had to do was watch the film. The dude was maybe one of the best tacklers that I've seen. As far as if the guy did catch a ball, he'd eliminate yards after catch. His coverage, his movement skills, his instincts were off the charts. Just a great football player. So nobody cared what he ran. We just knew what we saw against the best competition that was out there at the SEC, playing against some of those receivers. He played nickel. He can play safety. He can play corner. So I really think that might go down. Now, I could be wrong, but that might go down as well.
Web.com's AI.
No. The only reason we were watching that clip was to hear that one part.
You get the point. All right.
And he was about to say, I think he's going to go down as the best pick that Brad Holmes has ever had, or maybe will have. I don't know if he said that, but that's bad.
Which I don't agree. I don't agree with. I think Amon-Ra is the best pick in my
potentially,
opinion.
Yeah.
For the value.
Aren't you so informed? No more than Chris Spielman, don't you? Look at you.
All right.
No.
He's about to get a little argument with Chris Spielman. Let's see that battle there, huh?
No, I'd lose. I would lose that argument.
What is it that I said yesterday to Klotzy? About the argument. This is just a point where I just want to make a statement, Klotzy. Jeff says
this isn't for discussion. This is a take. This isn't a discussion.
Yeah.
We're not having this is not an open forum.
What
this
I say goes. Your input is irrelevant to what is coming out of my mouth. I do not care.
That's what he says to Chris Spielman.
I will say this though about the position thing. Because we've had some discussions. Chris, I definitely understand that philosophy. It works, and that's Brad Holmes. I'm not going to sit here and try and argue with that either. I look at it, whether I look at running backs a certain way or not. The one thing I did say when Jahmyr was drafted is there is upside there as a pass catcher. So if you're arguing he's a weapon, I'm intrigued. And that's what he just said too. So I understand that.
That's the same point when you give him Klotzy. Can we get a handshake? Me and you right here. Let's do a handshake across, Jeff. Let's do a handshake across.
What are we handshaking here? Because
we're handshaking. No, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. No, this is a good thing. This is Jeff says that don't give Jahmyr Gibbs a contract, but what Chris Spielman just said, he's a weapon. He's not a running back. You throw him in the slot, you could do everything with it. He will be a CMC. He'll be the best weapon in the NFL. Klotzy, come on, let's do it across Jeff. Other way. Across Jeff.
The paying Jahmyr, that's a whole
nother thing. When you look at a weapon, it's a weapon, brother. You pay weapons.
Justin Jefferson money.
No,
CMC,
and it's not that I don't.
Tim Hardaway money.
You're getting a weapon and running back money, not wide receiver money. That's better, in my opinion.
It's a good theory. But if I'm Jahmyr Gibbs and I'm producing like both, I want both.
Whoa. Time out. It's not a theory. It's a fact. He's listed as a running back in the NFL.
That's not how that works.
I'm pretty sure. Klotzy, am I wrong? I'm pretty sure.
Jeff, you're making my point.
That's how it works.
You're making my point of where I think the NFL is going to be going with the running back position, though, where you're going to have to required to be like a pass catcher and to be a runner of the football, else you're not going to be extended ever. I think the guys like Jahmyr, to your point, they're going to be asking for more money. They're not going to be getting what Dalvin Cook and all those guys, or not Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones and all those guys got this offseason. He's definitely going to get more than that, but I don't think it's going to be wide receiver money. I think you are right. He's going to ask for more, but again, I think if you get to that point, I hope it's like a 2-3 year contract. I hope it's not like a 5-year, but I think there is some leverage that he can pull to the fact that, okay, now we're entering the new age of the NFL. I'm going to be the running back that really kind of be the front runner with Breece Hall and Bijan of this is what the mold is now. There's no more Jamal Williams. There's no more Mark Ingram. Those days are gone. If you want to do that, that's fine, but you're going to be in the NFL making $2 million over the course of 4 years.
And to my point is, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but the CBA, I don't know if it's changed, but I'm pretty sure when you're classified as a certain position, there are those. That's why the running back situations last year, that they were mad about their market because they want to be pushed up. But do you remember the Debo contract negotiations about a year or two ago to when he wanted to get classified? I can't remember what position it was, but he wanted to be under a certain position so he could get paid more. And I think the 49ers were like, no, we want to pay you as I don't know. I can't remember if it was running back or wide receiver or whatever it was. But when you're classified a certain position, there's your agent comes in and says, hey, this is the market here. They're not going to go in and say, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's classified as a weapon. We want $35 million a year for him. No, he's a running back, but he plays as a weapon. So you're going to get him at $18 million. Like, that's how it will work.
Yeah, and I think I hope you don't think I meant he's getting paid like a receiver.
Okay. I'm glad we
no, I would never say that. What I'm saying is he will get paid like well, look, the average salary per year. Who's the highest two paid running backs? Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
18 million for Christian McCaffrey.
My point. Like he's going to want that's the class though. He's not. So he.
I'd be comfortable with that though. I'd be if you have a rookie running back, like if they draft another rookie running back, I'm comfortable with it because
breaking news.
What's up, Boone?
Breaking news. We're about to end the show, so I just want to get this breaking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought we were done there. I apologize.
You're good. You get it's fine. We got the point across.
Breaking news.
Oh, I hit the wrong one. I hit the wrong one.
Tom Brady's number has officially been retired by the New England Patriots.
Oh, I think meant by the NFL.
They just announced it. They just announced they did his Hall of Fame or his Patriots Hall of Fame, and they announced that his number is now retired. I think that's breaking news. I'm a big Tom Brady fan. Okay. That's exciting. Generational, best ever that we've ever seen.
That's fair.
Sorry, I just want to throw that out. That was really random on me, boys.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good. Yeah, we kind of saw that one coming. I guess. I mean, well,
yeah, no, it was definitely coming, but not today. We didn't know.
You know what, Booner? I appreciate that. We do appreciate all you two for tuning in. Shout out to John, providing us with some great content on a Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow, so make sure.
I will guarantee tomorrow we will do mailbag too. I saw a comment yesterday that said you boys haven't done mailbag in 2 days. We were slacking. So we will do mailbag tomorrow.
Yeah.
Love you guys though.
We'll do better. Until tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Stay blessed.
Spielman better.
Peace. We'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.